Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of the CertiK Security Leaderboard Showcase. I'm your host, Aaron Leibowitz, and as you all know well by now, in this showcase, I host a guest for a live AMA where we discuss their work with CertiK, the Security Leaderboard, and we throw in some live questions from you, the viewers. Our goal is to raise the standards of security in the DeFi ecosystem. The Security Leaderboard, found at CertiK.com, is a free tool to help you safely navigate the blockchain world. Today, I will be joined by Hector Finance. They're contributing $500 worth of Tor token for today's top live questions. Make sure to read the rules on the Twitter post at CertiK Community in order to qualify for rewards. A big thank you to the Hector team. And before we dive in here, let's go ahead and take a look at their CertiK.com security leaderboard listing. You'll see many top projects who we've worked with in the past, all of their security data here. Now let's go to the Hector page. Up top, you're going to see a big overview, a lot of key statistics, security score. Scrolling down, we see the audit history here. You can click into any of the audit reports. And finally, onto the Skynet on-chain monitoring. If you've missed any of the recent product insights that I've done with my co-host Kayvon, we go over how Skynet works, how to look at the data, and how to sort of draw insights out of that. So with no further ado, let's bring on today's guest. Prometheus, how you doing?
I'm great, thanks. How are you doing, Aaron?
Doing well, thank you. Excited to have you here with me.
Yeah, the pleasure's all mine. It's always great to do to speak at events like this.
Fantastic. So why don't we dive right in here? Can you give us a little overview on Hector Finance, yourself, project background, sort of all of it?
Absolutely. So Hector Finance, and some people may know us as Hector DAO. We recently went through a name change, but Hector Finance essentially is a project where we're creating financial products and services on the Fantom Opera chain. We want to create what we call the financial center. And so we started out as a fork of Olympus. A lot of you may recognize that name. We started out really as a Rebase first project. And over time, we generated this enormous treasury of, I think it peaked at like $110 million. And so we said, okay, let's do more. Let's develop use cases that give people true value. Let's start bringing that value into the Hector ecosystem, and let's start kind of creating a cyclical thing here where, we want this situation where if there's something you want to do on chain with your finances or with your resources, you can do it with our products. That's kind of how encompassing we'd like to be. And so we have a yearly budget of about $7.2 million for this year to develop all of the use cases that we want to. That includes things like a lending and borrowing network, which was actually deployed a couple of weeks ago. We're creating a stablecoin, which has a public launch tomorrow, which is exciting stuff. We've got loads of other stuff, NFT offerings, DeFi gaming, all sorts of cool stuff like that. So that's really an overview of the project. To talk about myself, I came to the crypto space, towards the end of the last bear season. Suffice to say, I've seen how crazy things can get because of when I arrived. And so, I arrived because I'd been doing traditional investing for a little while, and I'd noticed that the broker I was using was starting to list assets that were in the crypto space. And I thought, well, if they're doing it, maybe there's something to look into here. And I just fell in love with it. I started researching the technology and the communities and the innovation, and I just thought, wow, there's so much here. There's so much opportunity that it's, this is going to be a game changer. And I suppose that's why we're all here, really. Fast forwards, and I've been in many different changes as an investor and community member, and at this point I'm now a co-founder of Hector Finance, and it's been a crazy journey. It's been a really rewarding one, and now I get to do what is quite literally my dream job. So I've had an amazing journey. I'm very grateful for it.
Fantastic. I love to hear that. And one of the things you touched on, the financial institution that you were already trading with offering crypto, is actually the jumping off point for you. That's, I think, why people are so excited, even if it doesn't affect them when traditional financial institutions offer access to crypto. It's because of people coming in just like that. For example, my first expenditure of Bitcoin was circa 2014 buying FIFA 15 because Microsoft accepted Bitcoin. So maybe the most expensive video game I've ever bought at this point, but
yeah, that gives me the $1 million pizza vibes there.
A little bit. If you add in the Ultimate Team packs, it really got out of hand.
Oh, man.
Anyway, so it seems to me Hector is a wide-ranging, all-encompassing, if you want it, we'll build it sort of attitude towards DeFi, and even you mentioned GameFi, NFTs, anything blockchain related you guys are willing to build. But I guess that's sort of the nature of the DAO structure, or the decentralized structure at least, is that if the community wants it, that's what you guys will prioritize. Is that about right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the best way to look at it is to compare it to traditional finance or even traditional companies, right? So there's this sense of centralized leadership, and obviously cryptocurrency serves in part to try to find a better way and to mitigate some of the bad things that can happen when you have that. So um whereas before you would have kind of, like I said, a centralized authority that had absolute decision making, what we've seen with crypto is more community engagement, and oftentimes it kind of works for the best in some ways. Obviously there's certain things that can't be done by committee, and I think we all know that, but the way we run things is, we're creating a system that we can eventually give more and more control over to the community over time. And so, in launch mode, I guess, which is kind of still where we are, maybe we're taking that first step out right now, but in the early days of a project, it's much harder to be completely true to the name DAO, that being that literally every aspect of every contract is created and controlled and operated by community governance. But in terms of community initiatives like treasury investments, changes to the protocol, all sorts of stuff, we've got a huge amount of community engagement, and we always love sharing that. We take a lot of suggestions from our community as well on what they want to see and where they want things to go. And so we've got this really, two minds are better than one, and therefore 50,000 are better than two. So it's really cool to have this enormous think tank of researchers that can go and, I'm not an expert in every single area of crypto, but because of the size of our community, I can probably find one in every single area of crypto, and it really does serve that purpose in a really excellent way.
For sure, that makes a lot of sense to me, and I sort of love that. I'll tell you, you're getting a lot of love in chat. You have quite a few people telling you that they are big fans. So clearly a strong community. Speaking of exciting things in the community, new launches, is you mentioned tomorrow is the public launch of the Tor token. Can you tell us a little bit about it? I know it's a stable coin. What are its sort of unique features? What's going on there?
Absolutely. I'm so excited about this. It's been so hard to hold my tongue for the last few weeks whilst this has been under development. So Tor, let's look at it from a perspective of what people get out of it first. I like to approach things from a community perspective. So Tor is a stable coin that you can place into a farm and get 60% rewards on your farming. That makes it one of the highest rewarding, if not perhaps the highest rewarding token, particularly in the Fantom space. And the way that we do that is we have a massive, massive treasury, about $100 million right now. So we can invest that into yield-bearing assets and use those yield-bearing assets to create more of a stable return for people who want to do low-risk stablecoin farming. And so the way it works is...
Just to dive in here for a second, you're going to have different risk levels for different levels of yield.
So the way it's kind of set up right now is with our underlying Hec token, which was the first token that we started working with. That is slightly higher risk because it has price volatility, right? So demand up, price up, etc., etc. We all know how that works. Whereas the stable coin that we're creating, which is called Tor, is the super low risk version of that. So if you'd like to farm your Tor tokens and get 60 and then we think we can maintain 36.5 for a very, very long time as well, which is still crazy high. That would be your low risk solution to doing that. And kind of the way that works, as I said, is with treasury investments, which are then converted to those rewards. And because we have access to the huge treasury, we can generate huge amounts of rewards. But it kind of goes further than we're taking interest rates from treasury investments. It kind of feeds into and creates what we call a feedback loop for the Hector ecosystem. So to get Tor, you have to do certain things with Hec. And for the majority, if you want to mint Tor, you can do that with USDC or DAI. But here's the cool thing. When you mint those tokens, that USDC or DAI is used to buy and then burn Hec tokens, meaning that we have some sort of supply control whilst simultaneously being rebasing with Hec. And at the same time, the reward that you get is Tor tokens, which you can get high rewards on for farming. And so it creates this really cool feedback loop where, let's look at the absolute best case scenario for this, just so we can envision how we're trying to create the system. So Tor rewards are great. There's high demand for Tor. Therefore, there's a lot of people who are minting Tor, and therefore there is quite a high volume of Hec tokens being bought and burnt, which creates two things. So one of them is obviously the immediate price impact of buying Hec tokens, which we all love. And then the second one is a reduction in supply of Hec tokens because they're being burned. So economically speaking, I think it's fair to say that all things, all of the factors outside of the equations, talking about you, Bitcoin, there are certain effects on price that may happen if we can achieve those two things in a really substantial way. So
Got
as
it.
the price of the HEC token goes up, we can sell more bonds, which means we can increase the size of the treasury, which means we can increase the Tor rewards, which means we can create more demand for Tor, and it creates a loop on itself.
Got it. And can you dive a little bit into the redemption structure on the bonds? What's the timeline? How are they redeemed?
So for bonds, so for everyone listening who is kind of unfamiliar with the system, the bonding system is more to do with HEC. So HEC is our underlying token and Tor is our stable, and then put them together, Hector. Great marketing. So for bonding, it works like this. So when you want to bond tokens, you can come to the protocol with your tokens, generally stable coins. So let's say you have USDC. And you can exchange those USDC tokens for HEC tokens, which are at a slight discount to market prices, generally speaking. What that means is the treasury grows because we get those stable coins, which we can use for various things like investments, etc., development, all of that good stuff. And the reward to you is that you get discounted tokens from market prices. So there's kind of a mutually beneficial, almost symbiotic relationship, I guess you could call it. Now, that can only really happen when we're above a certain kind of mathematically defined number called the BPH, or backing per HEC. And that's a representation of the size of our treasury reserves compared to the outstanding amount of HEC tokens and their prices. And so with a rising HEC token price, we can sell more bonds and create a larger treasury. Whereas when the price is below that number, we can use the treasury to create more use cases and drive that demand for the HEC token. So it puts us in a really good position where we're very lucky to have an enormous amount of funding and treasury reserves behind the project. But we also have a really wonderfully dedicated community and team for the project. So it's really exciting. It really is.
Got it. So the HEC token is the token for the treasury right now. Will that switch to Tor?
We kind of see it as the HEC token being the utility token and the Tor being the, I'm not going to say store of value, but perhaps you could look at it that way. So,
sure.
And the reason I'm not going to say that is because not financial advice.
Yes, of course. My question really comes from the place of, in the case of a bear market and you are looking to, drive that utility for the HEC token by using the reserve fund, it would be safer if that was denominated in a stablecoin rather than something that is subject to the flux of the market now.
Exactly. But this is why we take bonds off stable coins, because the treasury we have is in stables, which is, I think it's like $99.8 million right now. Meaning that in a bear market, obviously there's stable value. So we have the development funds to keep pushing forward regardless of how the market treats the project.
Fantastic. And that is a really excellent feedback loop that should work well moving forward. I'm excited to watch how that actually handles the bear market. Well, not excited for a bear market, but excited to.
Who is?
So you guys actually, on your website, you say you're the first deflationary rebasing token. Why did you choose a rebasing token? In the past, for example, I had a Base protocol on here, and Base was one of the very early rebasing protocols that was pegged to the total market cap of crypto. They switched off of the rebasing model because rebasing was extremely difficult in some wallets, and they couldn't do integrations with a lot of wallets, which hindered mass adoption.
Yeah, it was really interesting to observe the path that people had taken with regards to rebasing, because it's not a brand new concept, but it's relatively new in the terms of the ways that it has been used over the last, let's call it 6 months. Sure. One of the advantages of being a rebase token is that you can create an enormous community really, really fast by doing it, because the rewards for people who adopt it at the right time are really high. Now, obviously, with we saw that, I guess you could call it the rebase gold rush, to coin a term, where there were rebase tokens that had millions, billions. I'm pretty sure I even saw into the trillions in certain cases of APY, and I think it's clear to everybody that that's not sustainable, because let's say you have an APY of 10,000%. You're looking at a 10,000% gain of market cap in 1 year, and past a certain point, that's very difficult to do.
For sure.
And so I think the real thing that you have to do when you start as a rebase project is learn to create a value outside of rebasing, or not necessarily outside, but more supplementary to rebasing. And so there's been various different ways of that we've seen projects tackle the issues that rebase tokens have seen. So, it really depends upon the destination you want to reach, right? So one set of goals warrants one set of action, and the action obviously that we've taken represents the goals that we've got. But they, obviously because of how new a concept or kind of how wide the adoption has been relative to the age of the concept, there's certainly been difficulties. We've managed to mitigate most of that by keeping things kind of on contract with, we mainly basically use Trust and MetaMask as our two mainly supported wallets, and they make things nice and easy because everything can be handled outside of those wallets and more by the protocol.
Very interesting. I think overall that's a pretty good distinction between you and other rebasing protocols. Yeah, the unsustainable nature of them at first was quite a shocker, especially when you were looking at those crazy APYs. All right, two things here. One, I want to tell the community, please, when you're asking live questions, include your Twitter or Telegram handle and tell me which one it is. It'll make distributing rewards much, much easier. And two, don't copy and paste a question that somebody just above you asked. I'm not going to ask yours then. Come on. So, moving on to live questions here, Prometheus. Why did you guys choose Fantom Network?
I love this question. I get this so often. So,
sure.
I could babble on all day about how much I love the Fantom Network, but the main things are really that it's really fast, it's really secure, it's really scalable, and it's really cheap to use. I mean, you can't really ask for a whole lot more. And look, Fantom's not the only chain, obviously, that achieved those things. But Fantom, when we joined, and really to an extent today as well, it's still true, is in a really unique position of having, again, not financial advice, but there are large groups of people who think that it is a dramatically undervalued and dramatically underappreciated network to do certain things with, particularly DeFi, because of low transaction fees mainly are a massive benefit there. We kind of spotted this and thought, wow, this is going to take off, and we've seen billions of dollars per day at times flooding into the Fantom network, and
for sure,
community adoption and social engagement for the Fantom chain has been absolutely phenomenal over the last few months, and I really don't see that slowing down in a macro sense. Maybe the market goes up, maybe it goes sideways, maybe it goes down, but Fantom, I truly believe, has something incredible to offer, and it's amazing to be a part of that.
Absolutely, I'd love to hear that. Somebody did just comment sort of a funny but true comment, which is Solana moment. It's definitely similar phrasing to what we heard about early adopters of Sol. Do you think that Fantom's going to have similar levels of adoption, similar levels of development? We see a lot of these L1s that have strong momentum at launch and, especially mainnet launch. And then you move on to sort of the building phase and you don't have many dApps coming out and you lose momentum. And all of a sudden this chain is a lot of people, you have a lot of people holding on to their copium, but otherwise there isn't much being done there. And you sort of have this lull between launch and, major utility brought by dApps.
So the Solana moment, whoever said that, I think that was Novak. I suspect Novak has been watching some of our AMAs because I always call it the Solana moment, which is
I got you.
To say that Solana and Fantom have relatively similar fundamentals in a lot of way, and we saw what Solana did. But I think Solana had huge amounts of support from the outset. I think it was one of the most funded things ever in the blockchain space, which is great for them because Solana is a fantastic chain. And they've continuously delivered. They've had obviously a couple of hiccups here and there, but I would say overall Solana's done quite a good job. With Fantom, it seems to be the route of growth and development is, the culture of that is just absolutely constant, particularly within development teams as well, who we're good friends with a lot of other developers on the network. There seems to be this real culture of kind of make it better every day. It's not so much a compare us to them. It's more of a, how do we 1% every day? It's really that idea of creating something. And so I guess that's kind of represented in the TVL charts. You see a Fantom where it has these moments where people suddenly realize, oh wow, this is undervalued, and then the TVL goes up a few billion, and then we hit another sideways phase, and then the cycle repeats itself. But it's exciting to say the least. For sure.
So all right, we're going to move on to sort of a lightning round here. We're going to throw a lot of questions at you quickly. If you can give us 1 or 2 sentence answers, try and keep them short. If you need to ramble on a little bit, I will allow
Let's
it.
do it.
All right, so trust and security are very important. What keeps users safe on your platform? And how are you guys moving towards maintaining those security standards with new features, new rollouts?
Well, we have partnered with our good friends at CertiK for certain audits. The whole HEC contract and that side of things has been audited, and Tor, I think we just got the preliminary report yesterday for that, so that should be fully audited very soon. I think the threat landscape is constantly evolving, obviously. It's always a battle between people who would perpetrate and people who would defend. What we do inside the HEC team is constant reviews of code, constant reviews of methodologies and practices, and constant reviews of, how do we break this? How do we stop people from breaking it? And so, we have just ridiculous amounts of website security and fallbacks and redundancies, for example. So we're very security focused, and I think that's a great question to ask because we've seen what happens when you don't do that.
For sure. So how are you guys going to spread awareness in maybe smaller markets where English isn't the dominant language? This could be Southeast Asia, Eastern Europe, Africa. What's your community building look like around there?
We've got some wonderful partners with our marketing teams who are in various geographical regions. Fortunately, as a team, we speak something like 7 languages between us, mostly European languages, but Asian languages, etc. There's a few there. I really think it's about building connections and friendships, and in the community we have people who are bilingual, or at least of those communities, and who also speak English. And so I think it's a case of leaning into that and saying, hey, how can we make this really appealing to people in your area? How can we make this the best possible situation, and how can we penetrate that market? And we lean into that a lot.
Awesome. I love to hear that. So do token holders have the right to participate in governance of your project?
Absolutely. We use Snapshot for our voting procedures. So if you hold any variation of our tokens, so that could be Fantom, wrapped Fantom, staked Fantom, HEC, wrapped HEC, staked HEC, etc., etc. Yes, you can vote on our governance protocols. You can find all that information on our website under the governance tab.
Fantastic. Can you explain a little bit your staking system? How does the staking work?
Yeah, so in terms of usage, you would get your HEC from the market or from a bond. You come to our protocol, you click stake, and then you approve it, and then congratulations, you're staked. You will automatically receive rewards. You don't need to do anything from now on out. If you'd like to take those rewards, take profits, sell, whatever it is you might want to do, you then unstake, and that will give you HEC tokens back. And then you can take them to market and sell if you want to.
Got it. Okay, so we know where the names of the tokens HEC and Tor come from, but where does the Hector Finance, Hector DAO come from?
Yeah, so I remember this conversation very early on, and we were thinking, well, how do we create or choose a name that has some history behind it, but is rewarding to find the history? And so, there's certain, it could be like Superman, Iron Man, Explosive, Zeus coin. And, there's obviously dramatic overkill there, but there's no work in finding out what that means, right? The names are there. Hector, however, if you go and research Hector, you'll find the history of it. Hector was an extremely talented and respected military strategist back in the day. And so we wanted to choose something where people thought, Hector, what is this Hector thing? And they go and research it, and they find the information. And I think when people do that, they have a closer connection and a more of an appreciation of it. But I think it's an interesting name. It gets a lot of comments, and I guess it's a conversation starter at least.
Okay, so then I have to dive into the derivation of Prometheus, the trickster, one of the Titans. Where did you get that name from, and where is that? How does that fit into your sort of personality and your role in the project today?
So we did the whole the naming procedure, and we went away and looked at various names that we could have. I kind of stumbled upon Prometheus. I had decent experience with Greek mythology and the type from before, but I really delved into it for this. And Prometheus was the god of fire, and stole fire and gave it to humanity, essentially. And that's not a statement of who I think I am as a person by any means. I just think it's a really cool story.
Sure.
It was something I chose that was imbued with meaning as I started to do things, I suppose. I'm really lucky that we have a great community in the project, and I'm really good friends with so many community members. And so I think the half of the weight comes from the history of the name, and half of the weight comes from the actions taken by myself with the name, I guess.
Fair enough. All right. If you need to list 1 to 3 killer features of Hector Finance, what are they going to be?
I would say Tor is going to be absolutely massive. That's what we're projecting so far. Let's do the elevator pitch. So number 1, Tor. Tor is going to produce some really cool results if we can get it right, and I'm very confident we can do so. We've got the funding to take it all the way. Number 2, we have a treasury of $100 million. So if I said to you, I'm going to launch, call it Prometheus coin, and at launch, this project is going to have $100 million to do development and stuff, I'd be pretty interested if someone said that to me. That's essentially the position we're in. except we're already developing and deploying those utilities. So we've already got the lending protocol. Tor is coming out tomorrow. We've got loads of other stuff coming. The third one I would say is access to the team. We spend a lot of time speaking with the community, and it's because we love doing it. It's not so much that's our job. It's we really enjoy speaking with the community, and I think when you can access a team like that and offer feedback, even criticism and suggestions, etc., it's a really nice thing to have. So if that's something you're looking for, then come and explore our community.
Fantastic. I think that was a strong elevator pitch. All right, continuing down here. Why did you choose CertiK? And why did you go beyond an audit and include Skynet?
CertiK is a name that carries a lot of weight behind it. CertiK's a very respected company. I'm not getting paid to say this just before anyone says it, but CertiK is a well-respected company, obviously, in the industry, and it's kind of the de facto standard, right? So if you want something really, really detailed, and we saw the preliminary reports you guys wrote, you guys really go into detail. It's incredible. And so it's that confidence that, we get confidence from CertiK's depth and professionalism, and we can pass that confidence to our community by saying CertiK really knows what they're doing. And the reason we decided to go above and beyond is for exactly the same reason. It's all about trust and confidence, and to be able to say the experts, the leaders in the space have done this and they've signed up on it. It's a really good position to have, not to mention the fact that we want everything to be nice and secure as well, obviously. That's really the driving factor here.
For sure. Love to hear that. Appreciate the kind words. So Tor is launching tomorrow, as we spoke about. What is your go-to-market strategy? What marketing stuff can we expect to see? Have we already seen? What's going on there?
So much marketing. I always make the statement in our MAs that our marketing team kills it, and it's really true. So for the first couple of weeks of this year, we were the #1 trending coin basically everywhere because we just relentlessly attack marketing. We've got a huge marketing budget, and so you name a marketing thing, and we're gonna see it from our community and from our project. It's going to revolve a lot around working with external AMAs and going and doing events in that space. A lot of videos, how-to videos, animated videos, all sorts of stuff. We're going to be attacking it from every angle.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to watching that. So how do you see Hector fitting in with the greater Fantom ecosystem, not only bringing more users to Fantom, but having a symbiotic relationship with the growth of the chain?
As I said before, we're very, very good friends with a lot of different developers on the network. And, Fantom is just a good space for that. There have been people that, for example, I'm not going to say who it is, but there is a group of people who are working on a project who wanted to join Fantom because they had come from a smaller chain and they thought, well, Fantom's got some really nice stuff on it. And so they joined and got into the group, and we were observing. There's like a developer chat for loads of developers in Fantom. And one of the first things that they said to us when we had the conversation was, wow, everyone's so nice here. And that really is the crux of why Fantom is such a great place. There's so much support, there's so much love, there's so much kindness. So I see our place as a very collaborative one, as I'm sure many other developers on the chain think as well. There's so much of a focus on how can we support the Fantom chain and make it amazing, as well as obviously our own projects. I think that's what gives us all strength here. So it's a pleasure to work alongside and to have conversations with such incredible teams and people and so many projects on the network. Phenomenal.
I love that. The kind community is super, super important. In the sort of early ETH days, you would have spirited debates on a lot of the forums, but everyone was lifting each other up and positive. And I think since, it's become so much more widely adopted, it's hard to recognize the same users on forums and things like that. You don't get that same level of close, friendly interaction as you did when it was such a small community, which I think is definitely what you're seeing on Fantom today.
Absolutely. And to be able to maintain that is a real focus, I think, of many people on chain. To kind of keep it as that friendly neighborhood chain, that's really the goal. Make sure everybody's nice and it's knowledgeable. And yeah, we'll be pushing for that as hard as we can.
Awesome. That's fantastic. All right. So before we wrap it up here, can you tell us where should people be following you? Where should they be looking out for new stuff coming from you guys? Everything to do with that?
We have a wonderful community on Discord and a wonderful community on Telegram. So if you just search Hector Finance or Hector DAO Discord, you'll definitely find the link to there because I've done it a few times myself as a tester. But other than that, if you go to our website, which is hector.finance, you'll find everything. Socials, YouTube, Twitter, Telegram, Discord. Come and join these communities. We would love to welcome you. If you come to this community, either one of them, and say, hey, I came from CertiK, I guarantee to you that a load of people will come and welcome you with open arms and bring you in.
Oh, well, I'll just have to join the Discord after this then.
I'll see you there.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today, Prometheus. I think this has been a super informative AMA, and I'm definitely looking forward to tomorrow's store launch.
The pleasure is all mine, and I'm really equally looking forward to that. It's going to be a great day.
Fantastic. Well, chat, cheers. Always a pleasure to have you guys here asking great questions, and catch me back here for another one next week.